Hey guys, Zibboyeye or just Zib is fine, and today, this channel takes its first steps into found footage horror. But it would be impossible to talk about found footage without referring to the Blair Witch Project. A film with barely $20,000 to its name, Blair Witch was a hit that inspired indie filmmakers as well as big Hollywood wanting to maximize profits. But this was in no way exclusive to the US. Juan Balaguerro and Paco Plaza, easily one of the funnest names I've had on this show, teamed up to write and direct Spain's Wreck, released in theaters November 23, 2007. With a relatively small backing of only $2 million, Wreck was a success, amassing 6 times its budget by the end of its Spanish theatrical run. The movie would become one of Spain's best-known films, spawning a remake I'll cover later. For now, let's review everything and look at Wreck. The story follows Angela Vidal, hostess of the TV show While You Were Sleeping. When the firemen she's covering get a call from an apartment, Angela is thrusted into a zombie-like outbreak. With the government blocking all exits, Angela fights to tell the tale as she vows to record everything. The plot is simple on the surface, but there's a bit more to it. Behind the question, will Angela survive, character dialogue slowly builds the origin of the outbreak. It's an easy to get into story with an interesting little mystery in the back. The film knows how to capitalize on its excitement. Slower scenes have several cuts throughout. On the other hand, intense scenes feature little to no cuts. It immersed me in the action. In addition is Pablo the cameraman, who features little dialogue and personality. He can represent almost anyone, making him an effective audience surrogate. The overall pacing is fine outside of one lull. The film slows to a crawl in the middle to introduce its two-dimensional cast. The apartment dwellers are uninteresting and the scene is a speed bump. But these interviews are necessary to individualize the group, which gives their life value. Not to mention the interactions displayed in this scene as well as throughout the whole film appear candid.
Bueno, ¿cuándo empezamos?
Ya estamos.
Pero ¿cómo no me avisas? Una vez que tengo todos los brillos en la cara, vos sos loca.
And for found footage, mimesis is key. Now, a cynical young me, thinking he was an oh-so-clever critic, would watch found footage movies and say, "Why don't they just drop the camera and try to survive?" Yes, if you want a 15-minute film, they can. Even overlooking this necessity of the genre, I think the character's resolve to record everything works to the film's benefit. Not only does it show Angela and Pablo's commitment to reveal the truth, but their persistence stokes the audience's empathy. However, I don't struggle to suspend my disbelief anyway, especially with how convincing the film is. Plaza and Balaguerro casted lesser-known actors, thus mitigating the chance of viewers recognizing them and lifting the veil. However, another criterion was employed to cast the lead actress. Reporter Angela Vidal was played by Manuela Velasco, who often presented on Spanish television. Her experience makes her perfect for the role. One of the most surprising and important techniques to sell credibility is that some of the acting, well, isn't. It's real. Each actor was supplied a partial script that detailed only what the intended reader's character would do. In other words, actors often had no idea what to expect. The raw reactions this resulted in sold the film's realism. Another device used towards authenticity was the camera. Interviewees unprofessionally stare into the camera, while those fed up push it away. The interactions with the camera build its presence, although the cinematography works beyond found footage, such as when an officer draws his gun on Angela and crew. The poor lighting makes sense for the environment. Meanwhile, the officer engulfed in shadow makes an intimidating visual. This scene with Angela in front of a downed zombie is another good example. Every time Angela obscures the body, there's an anticipation. Will it get back up? I admire that the imagery functions at both conveying realism as well as communicating emotions through cinematography. But it's about time to talk about the ending, so spoilers until around this time, okay? Let's go. The lead-in to the climax is awesome. Angela and Pablo rush to the penthouse before peeking down the stairwell. The depth and horror of the shot make this one of the most memorable visuals of the film. The horde hammers in, there's no going back. It is revealed that the outbreak began with a girl named Tristana Medeiros who was believed to be possessed. She was captured by an agent of the Vatican and tested in the apartment. On the one hand, the articles suggest demonic interference. On the other hand, this possession spreads through saliva like a virus. I like ambiguous endings like this, they keep me bouncing back and forth in my head what really happened. Well, until the sequel picks a side. But I enjoyed the question while it lasted. After their light breaks, the protagonist's only salvation is the camera's night vision. This clever use of the camera takes advantage of the genre. It also unifies the protagonist's and audience's perspective as they can only see what we're allowed to see. The build-up to Medeiros is superb, starting with only her inhuman silhouette, followed by the appearance of her gangly physique and disfigured face. The night vision even revokes any apparent skin tone. There's almost nothing resembling a human, let alone the zombies. It's a great payoff. The film ends with Angela getting dragged off by the creature. Her fate, only a sequel can tell. I had a great time with Rec. Its side characters are simple, but I'm fond of the protagonist. The film was a thrill and horror, hooking me with Plaza and Balaguero's unconventional yet genius techniques to emulate reality. A good movie and a great found footage film. That's Rec. It's no wonder why Hollywood would want to bring it to America. Which brings us to the US adaptation. Oddly, Quarantine was greenlit before Rec even came out. Which confused me at first until I considered Rec's initial premiere at the 64th Venice International Film Festival, which ranged from late August to early September, a few months before Rec's theatrical release. I kind of liked this since it could suggest that the people who saw the original were passionate enough about it that they didn't need to wait for its success to pursue a remake. John Eric Doidle writes and directs the film alongside his brother Drew Doidle as co-writer. The budget was $10 million more generous than the original. However, the film opened to second place at the box office, unable to top Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
Jealous?
The cinematic experience of the year, I'd imagine. Although the movie earned a profit, it was neither a hit with moviegoers nor critics. But I'll give it a shot nonetheless, so let's look at Quarantine. The scenario is similar to that of Rec. Even the protagonist, Angela Vidal, maintains her name from the original, though her cameraman now goes by Scott. I'll preface my critique by saying that much of Quarantine reflects the content of Rec. So if I don't mention something, you can assume it's fairly similar. But there are a few distinctions. I'll start very small. For instance, the shot of Angela recoiling from an encounter with a zombie. The stair's decorative design loosely outlines its subject. It's a neat frame-in-frame-esque shot. There's one cut I appreciate. This time around, the tenant interview scene is significantly abridged. Although it limits the already scarce personality of the side characters, it helps maintain the pace. As for the additional scenes, during the end chase there is a point when the characters call upon an elevator. There's a lengthened suspense in the wait for the elevator and what lies above. Nearing the third act, the character futilely attempts to escape the apartment. It reinforces the character's entrapment. Death outside, death inside, it amplifies the threat. The characters too slightly differ. Angela is more jocular. The cameraman Scott not only shows his face, but bears a greater presence. In one scene, Angela comforts him, hinting at a lengthy partnership between the two. His character and relationship with Angela is much more developed than his Spanish counterpart, but some may prefer Pablo's lack of character that made him easy to project oneself as. I respect the direction Quarantine decided to go with the character, but it can be give and take. Unlike the characterization of the fireman, which is all take. Balaguero and Plaza chose firefighters for Angela to follow in Rec because of their societal image as heroes. This is so that the firefighters would quickly have the goodwill of the audience. The firemen in Quarantine, however, squander that goodwill. They're perverts.
No, I'm in charge of the Chico meter. If I see a girl, I rate them for the guy. So if I say there's an 8 at 3 o'clock, the guys know they better look to the right.
Their behavior also impacts Angela's character as she accepts it.
$100 says I can bang her by the morning. Oh, come on.
I'll take that bet.
Angela possesses a strong integrity. She puts her neck on the line to tape this tragedy. So her passive response to this harassment not only feels out of character, but makes her weaker than in Rec. These rude comments damage the firemen, they damage the protagonist. I wish they just cut them out. But how is Quarantine as a found footage film? There are some differing uses of the tech. At one point, Scott uses the camera to kill an infected. It's unique. I've never seen a weaponized POV before. Not only that, but it displays Scott's desperation. At another point, Angela uses the mic she placed on a fireman to eavesdrop.
I'm asking why they're calling this a PNC.
It's PNC.
I don't know. Hello?
It's a resourceful use of their tools. Unfortunately, that's where my compliments end. Firstly, this new scene of the group finding an infectee slumped in front of a static TV. What a cliche! Can you see this as anything but a movie? But the audio may be too real. The dialogue is way too quiet. I have been amplifying the audio for the clips I've used. Here is what the original Rec sounds like unedited.
¿Cómo que no? ¿Cómo que no toques la cámara? Ni se te ocurra tocar la cámara. Tenemos que informarte de lo que está pasando aquí. ¡Me cago en la hostia! ¡Oiga!
For comparison, here's that same scene from Quarantine. That is a difference of around 10 decibels. It is perceptibly half as loud as the original. Perhaps the poor balance was to make the audio sound genuine and unaltered? But that's obtuse when I have to keep my thumb on the volume throughout the whole movie. Oh no. Where's the remote?
Everywhere. They blocked up the street. He was getting antibiotics for her. We gotta
I thought this was made so people didn't have to turn on subtitles. Then there's the cinematography. I dislike this moment when the camera immediately zooms on this person's wound. It seems they wanted to highlight the special effects, but as a result, the camera work is too choreographed. The lighting, though, is the biggest detractor. Take this shot, for example. The light is this saturated blue hue. The subject's illuminated face draws the viewer's attention, while the shadowed portions of his head add dynamism to the shot. It's too good. Scott's the luckiest cameraman ever to get a shot like this on accident. Point being, the cinematography is too cinematic to be taken for reality. And for a genre that seeks to imitate just that, that's a big failing. But there's still left to cover the ending, so let's see it. The setup is the same as Rex. The build-up to the creature is still great, perhaps even better as we catch more glimpses culminating to the face reveal. Thankfully, the design of the original is retained alongside its impact. The ending too is the same aside from one aspect. The virus is merely that, a virus stolen by a doomsday cult. The duo behind Rec held conflicting views towards this. Plaza was fairly passive, saying, "I guess they had their reasons." Balaguero, on the other hand, laments this change. I don't understand why they avoided the religious themes. They lost a very important part of the end of the movie. And I agree. I preferred the open-ended nature of Rec's conclusion. But even if you prefer the more scientific explanation, the original ending didn't outright refute it. On top of eliminating a lingering sense of mystery, all removing the ambiguity does is limit who the ending appeals to. Although there are some minor alterations and additions I commend, many of Quarantine's distinctions make it the lesser film. The characterization is weaker and the cinematography is dedicated more to film than the spirit of found footage that founded the original. But worst of all in my opinion, it's too similar to Rec. A majority of the scenes are a mirror to Rec's. Watching these movies for the review, I got bored with Quarantine because it was like seeing the same movie again. And I have never had that response in any of the sittings for my other comparison videos. Balaguero holds a similar distaste for the remake. It's a copy, it's exactly the same except for the finale. It's impossible to enjoy Quarantine after Rec. Once again, I concur. Quarantine is one of the most accurate remakes I've seen, but that begs the question, why watch it over the original? But perhaps this adaptation wasn't completely useless. Plaza thanks the remake. I'm really happy they made it because it helped Rec to become more popular than it was. It moved a spotlight onto our film. Everyone knew that it existed, this tiny Spanish film. So maybe I can appreciate the remake's existence for putting eyes on the original, which it more than deserves. Rec's top-notch imitation of reality makes it a masterpiece of found footage and an essential watch for anyone interested in the genre. I've been Zibboyeye, or just Zib is fine, and thank you for watching. Zibbo, bye bye!